I've come to the Koenigsegg factory in Sweden for an exclusive look around.
I'm going to explore the inner workings of this secret facility with Christian von Koenigsegg.
Together,
we'll uncover how his company's unusual history led to its most powerful car, the
2,300 horsepower Gemera. I'll even get to see a brand new engine being tested, and I'll learn what's next.
But first, let's meet the man who started it all. I'm here with Christian von Koenigsegg here at Koenigsegg in Hengla, Sweden. But I want to start off with how it all began, because back when you were 22, 1994, you found the company.
Because
I'm basically my final year at university. You're starting a hypercar company.
Basically my final year at university.
So I actually started my first company when I was 19, buying and selling plastic bags.
So I actually started my first company when I was 19,
frozen chicken,
buying and selling plastic bags,
so that I could build a car.
Pens, frozen
3 years
chicken,
later, when I was 22, I had made a little bit of money.
Build a car.
So I started, and 2 years later, I had a driving prototype that still drives around today.
And 2 years later,
he makes it sound like a fairy tale beginning, but the truth was very different.
He makes it sound like a fairy tale
lost
beginning,
everything when a fire ripped through the first Koenigsegg factory.
Christian nearly lost everything
when
a fire ripped through the first Koenigsegg factory,
and his team managed to complete the first CC8S prototype.
But despite this, his team managed to complete the first CC8S prototype in time for the event and relocate to a nearby Air Force hangar. This used to be home to Sweden's famous Ghost Squadron, which is where Koenigsegg gets its iconic motto from, the show must go on. But despite the rocky start, Christian did manage to save a few mementos from those early days, which he keeps in his office, and that's where we're heading next.
The only reason why this exists is
the
because it
model
was lost
I
in
made back in
1994
when I started the company.
The
The only reason why this exists is because it was lost in 1998 in the US, and then it was it came up on an eBay auction like 6-7 years ago, and then I bought it back for peanuts. But if it wouldn't have been lost and found, it wouldn't exist because it would have been lost in the fire. So this is one of the few things I have from the early days.
But Christian's love of cars goes back much further than that, and it comes from a place I'd never have guessed.
So when I was about 6 years old, there was this stop-motion movie from Norway called Pinchcliff Grand Prix about a bicycle repairman who built this car. It's got a 12-liter engine in the front, it's got a rocket engine in the rear, four-wheel drive, it runs on ethanol, it races against Can-Ams and Porsches and Ferraris and wins the race. My father told me that when we went out of the theater, I told him that I want to be like that bicycle repairman when I grow up. I want to build a car.
But as we walked over to the factory floor, Christian had an admission to make.
Which is the
I
most
recently
powerful
bought
car
my first a few years ago because all the money I ever made, it was just put back in the company because that was my dream, was not to drive my own car or have my own car.
But as we walked over to the factory floor, Christian had an admission.
But eventually I could also afford to
buy
buy one.
my first Koenigsegg a few years ago because
all
the money I ever made, it was just put back in the company because that was my dream was not to drive my own car or have my own, it was to build cars.
So here you have 10 stations.
But eventually I could also afford to buy one. I bought a used one first.
So a little bit more than one car
output
per week on this
line
line here.
To the business. Everything is reinvested.
So this is the Jesco production line. So here you have 10 stations. We push the car forward a station every third day. So a little bit more than one car output per week on this line here. Over there you have what we call PDT, where we have test driving of the produced cars.
So they're checking out the quality of them before they actually
checklist and start them. And then we have wheel liners here, and then it kind of cycles a few times, checklist, checks everything, tightens things, and then polish it up like it had never been driven.
As we worked our way down the production line towards the Gemera, I realised something. Most Koenigsegg owners will never see all the stunning details that go into their cars, and I think Christian might be missing a trick here. It's quite interesting actually looking at your cars, because when you
and you guys actually have like similar levels of beauty. You just hide a lot of it away. Yeah, it's underneath the skin.
And you've all got is that kind of Swedish approach. And I say Pagani is very much about like the design.
I guess it's
you see all the beauty and stuff.
Not only that.
And you guys actually have
maybe we're going to show it a little bit more in the future because there's so much beauty.
Yeah, it's underneath the skin. I mean,
is that good Swedish? Is that Swedish mentality?
I guess it's just
and I like this
we're equally focused on everything, not only that. Maybe we're going to show it a little bit more in the future because there's so much beauty hidden underneath.
So this is interesting here. We've got a much more finished car, and I like this colour.
It's beautiful.
You drive our painters insane with our new Porsche.
Our finish,
look at, I mean, this is a negatively curved surface. This is almost impossible, positive or easy to make.
Orange peel.
Then you have this very particular fixed finish we
There is no orange peel.
There is no orange peel. We drive our painters insane with our requirements.
So this is not only not lacquer, it's also wet sanded away the thin epoxy layer that comes from the production process that everyone else would keep.
Then we have this very
it's the purest
particular
form of
Koenigsegg
carbon
finish
fiber we
called
can imagine.
KNC. So if you run your hand up and down on
painted
this,
like this
you
in
actually feel the fibers.
And that obviously adds
so
cost.
this is not only not lacquered,
because it's the level of
also wet sanded away the thin epoxy layer that comes from the production process that everyone else would keep. It's the purest form of carbon fiber we can imagine. We do entire cars unpainted like this in KNC.
And that obviously adds cost, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it's the level of perfection and craftsmanship is insane.
The last time I experienced anything like this attention to detail was when I visited Toyota's GR factory in Japan, where they build the GR Yaris. Koenigsegg is obviously on another level, but there's something quite Japanese about Christian's approach to building cars. And that wasn't the only thing, as I realised when he was showing me around
I guess it's my MX-5 Miata just because it was the first sports car I ever bought when I was 19 and I still had it after having sold and bought it 3 times over the years and always paid more to buy it back. Still very little money, of course. I've had it for some years now and it's just memory lane.
I guess it's my MX-5 Miata, I guess, because it was the first sports car I ever bought when I was 19, and I still have it after having sold and bought it 3 times over the years and always paid more to buy it back. Still very little money, of course. I've had it for some years now. It's just memory lane, no power at all.
We have actually how many people have Miatas here in the 2020 have Miatas here?
You still drive it now?
Exactly.
Every summer.
So, it's a very popular car. But the new JRA is about as far removed from the Mazda MX-5 as you can get.
Yeah, we have actually, Daniel, how many people have Miatas here?
Twin-turbo V8 engine. The hybrid drive system that combined produces 2,300 horsepower.
But the new Gemera is about as far removed from a Mazda
where we are still
MX-5
mostly
as you
building
can get.
test cars.
After all,
we have the
it has
first
4 seats,
customer car
four-wheel
on the
drive,
line.
a twin-turbo V8 engine, and a hybrid drive system that combined produces 2,300
customer of a JRA.
Here we have the Gemera production line, where we are still mostly building test cars, but we have the first
how many test cars do you
customer
build?
car on the line.
The very first?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're lucky enough to be the very first customer of the Gemera, here is your car.
Not this one, it's over at the start of the line.
Like many manufacturers,
so how many test cars do you build?
Depends. The Gemera we did the biggest. I think it was like 15 test cars.
15 test cars, 300 production cars.
Yes.
And what do you do? Like many manufacturers, they crash their test cars, obviously.
No. We crash test them, and eventually some of them we crush when they're completely beaten up. But the test cars we try to keep for as long as possible as test cars, and then we can revamp them into new nice cars eventually, put them in a museum, and eventually sell them to a collector or something like that, depending on how many we have. Either this one or that one is the first customer chassis. So
all carbon
they're going on the line now. And we manufacture the chassis right over here. Oh, they're actually in the process of making one right now.
It's the highest of any car I've ever heard.
So all carbon fiber tub.
From axle to axle, it's
65,000 Newton meters per degree torsional rigidity. So it's the highest of any car I've ever heard. The stiffer chassis you have, the softer suspension you can have with the same degree of control. The reason why it's so stiff is because we have this huge opening with no B-pillar that we needed to reinforce a lot for side crash, because there's no B-pillar to help you. So we need to make this opening so stiff, because it's the biggest opening on any production car in the world, as you can see over there. And that ended up also making the monocoque a little bit stiffer than even we thought we needed.
Like you said, it's the biggest opening on any car.
And any passenger
production car.
Unless you have vans sliding doors or something like that.
Because you get in through one door.
Yeah, exactly. So you can sit in the car in the showroom. So you open the door, you can parallel park this far away from another car, and you can jump in two meter persons, or 4 actually, but from one side, two meter persons, simultaneously without moving the seat with one door.
And this is a great example of Christian's unusual approach to designing cars. He's more like an inventor than a pure engineer. And he loves to get involved with every single area of developing a new car, including manufacturing parts that no other car maker
what about the where do you source
as
the
I
motor
found
from?
out when he showed me some
make
fully
that
built
yourself,
Gemera prototypes.
The e-motor.
Here we can see some of the test cars of the Gemera.
Okay.
And this is your most powerful car, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you make a lot of the components yourself. So then what about where do you source the motor from? You don't make that yourself, do you?
Sometimes they can adapt them a bit to us, but usually we can find something suitable and then create our packs and modules, and then we put our BMS, our cooling system, our safety systems.
The cells we collaborate with
manufacturers. But the e-motor and inverter we build absolutely from scratch. We wind the coil. I'm happy to show you the production line. It's 5 minutes away from here in another building. So we have a facility where we can produce 5,000 e-motors per year actually. Are you a bit of a control freak, Christian?
We wind the coils.
Yes,
I'm happy to show you the production line. It's 5 minutes away from here in another building.
So when you say test car, these are the ones that you're developing.
E-motors per year.
So you go out and test different components on them. Yeah, absolutely. We do endurance testing. We do winter testing.
Yeah, so this
one. So it all go back
together. So when you say test car, these are the ones that you're developing. So you go out and
check something out. Put some test part in.
We do
run it hard,
endurance
take it out.
testing. We do winter testing.
So things like that.
So it'll all go back together again. You get it out there on the runway.
Kilometers an hour.
Check something out.
452 or 57. Is it the fastest production car in the world as far as we are aware. Meaning a car that a customer can buy and drive and that's capable of that speed. But the other brand's record seems to be like a more of one-off pre-production stuff that you don't get in the hands of the owners.
As far as we are
it's
aware,
the yes, absolute,
meaning
isn't it? No, it was the 8 RS actually. Was it?
Drive,
yes.
And that's
still the Hour Absolute. We haven't proven the top speed of yet.
Brand's
right.
record seems
it's theoretical
to be like
then.
More of
yes. Okay. We are hoping to have a tire capable of doing this in the near future. So that's kind of the thing we're waiting for, to be able to prove how fast it can be.
Oh, was it?
And this is why Koenigsegg keeps hold of so many prototypes like this Jesko Absolute.
The Jesko Absolute, we
they're all being used to test new developments which could be rolled out to customers months or even years after their cars have been delivered. But before we take a look at some of the incredible engineering that goes into these cars, I wanted to ask Christian some important questions. So Christian, out of all the cars you've created,
and this is why
which is your
Koenigsegg
favorite?
keeps hold of so many
Not
prototypes
necessarily
like
in
this
terms of
Jesko
outright
Absolute.
performance, the
They're
one
all
that
being
means the
used
most
to
to you.
test new developments,
I get
which
that
could be rolled
question
out to
quite a lot,
customers
and then I always
months or
start
even
thinking about
years
that
after
car
their
is
cars
nice
have
like
been
this and
delivered.
that.
But before we
I
take a
did,
look at some
but
of
I
the
think it's
incredible
very simple.
engineering that goes
The
into
first
these
one is
cars, I
absolutely not
wanted
the
to
best
ask
one and not
Christian
the most
some
beautiful or
important
anything,
questions.
but it was the impossible
So,
becoming
Christian, out of
possible
all
that
the
made
cars
everything
you've
else
created,
possible. So
which is
therefore,
your favourite?
I enjoy
Not
it the
necessarily
most.
in terms of outright
Which one do you
performance, but
actually
what
own
means the
though?
most to
A
you?
I get
CCR,
that
a
question
CC8
quite a
and a
lot, and I
CC850
always
for
start
me.
thinking about that car is nice like this and that. But I think it's
I
very
just
simple.
love the look of it because I love the look of the
It's absolutely not the
CC8.
best one and
Yeah,
not the
the
most
original.
beautiful or anything,
the
but
OG.
it was the impossible
I love that. Attack or Absolute.
that made
From a
everything
beauty
else
perspective,
possible. So
Absolute and practical as well, since you can have luggage and it's a little bit more softly sprung around the track. Of course, an Attack, more downforce, stiffer, and if you like to go to the track on the weekends and on the road on normal days, Attack is maybe better.
Yeah, the original.
But this is amazing on the track as well. It's more driftable because you have less downforce. It's more softly sprung. So,
beauty
it's super
perspective,
fun on a track.
and practical
You
as
can
well,
look like a
since you can
drift
have
hero with
luggage,
it.
and it's a little bit more
Obviously,
softly
the new
sprung.
JRA
Around the
hasn't
track,
been
of
designed
course,
to
an
hit
Attack,
300
more
miles per hour like a
downforce,
Yes
stiffer,
Absolute or Smash
and
Lap records like a
if you like
Jesko
to go
Attack.
to the track on the weekends
Instead,
and
it's
on
a
the road on
technological
normal days,
flagship.
Attack is
It's
maybe
basically
better,
Koenigsegg
but
showing the world
this
exactly
is
what it's
amazing
capable
on the
of.
track as well.
And
It's
one of the
more
most unusual
driftable
bits of tech
because you have
developed for
less
this car is a
downforce, it's
bizarre
more softly
3-cylinder
sprung,
engine
so
that
it's
Christian
super fun
wanted
on
to
the
show
track.
me.
You can look like a drift
So,
hero with
where are
it.
we now?
Obviously,
Now,
the new
we're in
Gemera
hangar
hasn't
4,
been
which is
designed to
one
hit
of our
300 miles an
prototype
hour like a
hangars.
Jesko
And in this
Absolute
corner
or
of the hangar,
Smash Lap
we have the
records
free-valve
like a
development
Jesko
department.
Attack. Instead,
Almost
it's a
every
technological
internal combustion
flagship.
engine
It's
ever made
basically
uses a
Koenigsegg
camshaft
showing the
to control
world
when the intake
exactly
and
what
exhaust
it's
valves open
capable
and
of.
close.
And one of the most unusual
But
bits of
Koenigsegg
tech
has developed
developed for
a
this
new
car
kind of
is the
engine that can
bizarre
independently
three-cylinder
control each
engine
valve
that
using
Christian
pneumatic,
wanted to
hydraulic,
show me.
and electromagnetic
So where are we now?
actuators.
Now we're in
These can
hangar
precisely
4, which is
control
one
how
of our
much air
two
enters the
prototype
cylinder at
hangars.
any time,
In this
which means
corner
the
of the
valves
hangar,
themselves can
we have
replace
the
the
free
butterfly
valve
valves you
development
get in traditional
department.
throttle bodies.
Almost every internal
this means
combustion
there's
engine
absolutely
ever
zero
made
delay
uses
when
a
you hit the
camshaft
accelerator.
control when the intake
Free-valve
and
engines
exhaust valves
also
open
have the
and
potential to
close.
reduce
But
emissions in a
Koenigsegg
pretty
has developed a
unusual
new
and quite
kind of
violent
engine
way.
that can
We can turn
independently
the
control
engine
each
into a
valve
flamethrower
using
at cold start
pneumatic,
with the help of
hydraulic
the
and
valve timing to heat up the
electromagnetic
cattle catalytic
actuators.
converter
These
like
can
this.
precisely control how
And
much air
90%
enters
of
the
the
cylinder
emissions from
at
a
any
combustion
time,
engine
which
comes
means
the
the
first
valves
20
themselves
seconds
can
before the
replace the
catalytic
butterfly
converter is
valves you
warm.
get in traditional
So if we
throttle
can warm
bodies.
that up in
And this
7
means
seconds
there's
instead of
absolutely
20,
zero
you sort of
delay
half your
when you hit
emissions
the
on a driving
accelerator.
cycle.
Free valve
So
engines
here
also have
is
the
A8
potential
test
to
rig.
reduce
So you
emissions
have the
in a pretty
actuators up
unusual
here.
and quite violent
So it's a
way.
2L3 cylinder with 600 horsepower.
Into a
You can see the valves in
flamethrower
there.
at cold start
Yeah,
with the
normal
help of the
valves.
valve timing
So is
to
your
heat up
inlet.
the catalytic
Yeah, or yours is that
converter
exhaust.
like this.
That's
And
the inlet, and then
90%
you
of
have the
emissions
exhaust
from
here.
a combustion
Yeah,
engine
so then you
comes the first
get rid of
20
the other
seconds
chain
before
drive or the belt
catalytic
drive.
converter is warm.
So the engine
So
is a
if we can
little
warm
bit
that up
shorter
in
as
7
well.
seconds
It
instead
looks
of
like a
20, you
straight
sort of
6
half
because
your
it has
emissions
6
on a
pipes in the
driving
header
cycle.
manifold.
So here is
And one pipe from
a
each
test
cylinder
rig.
goes to one
So you have
turbo
the
and the other
actuators up
pipe from
here.
each cylinder goes to another
So it's a
turbo.
2-liter 3-cylinder
So up to
with
3,000
600
RPM, you
horsepower.
only
the
open one
valves in
exhaust
there?
valve and
Yeah,
force all the
normal
exhaust
valves.
gases to one small turbo. So we
So
get full
that's the
spool
inlet,
up at
and then you have the exhaust
1,700
here.
RPM.
So then you get
We
rid
have
of
600
the
Newton
chain
M
drive
at
or the belt drive, so
1,700
the engine is a bit
RPM from a
shorter as well.
2L3-cylinder
It looks like
engine.
a straight 6
That's
because
3
it has
valve.
6
Yes.
pipes in the
Wow.
header manifold.
That's the same
and
torque as
one
a
pipe
3L
from each
twin
cylinder
turbo straight
goes
6
to
in a
one
new
turbo,
BMW
and the other
M2,
pipe from
but
each
1,000
cylinder goes to
RPM
another
earlier in the
turbo.
rev range.
So up to
So
3,000
this engine
RPM, we
sounds
only
like a
open
win-win
one exhaust
situation.
valve and
But
force
there's a
all the
catch.
exhaust gases
Despite Despite appearing in the original JRA show car, Christian decided not to offer the free valve engine in the production version. Instead, it's getting a 5L V8. So, what changed? Well, before we can answer that question, I wanted to learn a bit more about these incredible V8 engines.
That's the same torque as a 3-litre twin-turbo straight-six in a new BMW M2,
the first car had an Audi
1,000 RPM earlier in the rev range. So, this engine sounds like a win-win situation.
Audi and they said yes first and then they said no
Despite appearing in the original Gemera show car, Christian decided not to offer the free valve engine in the production version. Instead, it's getting a 5-litre V8.
Then I realized this modular platform from
Well, before we can answer that question, I wanted to learn a bit more about these incredible V8 engines.
Then we did our own connecting rods.
So your first car had a Ford engine, didn't it?
Put supercharging on it.
had an Audi engine.
So like maybe it was 40-50% Ford parts and the rest very custom, and we got out 655 horsepower, the first homemade one, and then up to 800.
And then I found another engine in Italy,
so for the CCS, we started casting our own blocks and then our own heads, and then we moved on from there.
But then I realized
and there's something special about haven't you got the lightest crankshaft or something?
It was just a good starting
we have a look at it
point,
here.
Then we did our own connecting
that's
rods,
correct.
pistons,
So this is flat plane. This is flat plane for the Esco. And then we have our pistons here.
Maybe it was
not to show you the piston because this is like this is attention to detail. No one's going to see this, right? Literally, no one is seeing that apart from the engineer. And this corn rod is quite special in its design. It's very lightweight compared to its strength. And if you look here, I don't know if it's a bit tiny text to read.
And there's something special about
it. So there's a little message on it. It's impossible to lead by far. Therefore, I'm different. No one's seen the Christian apart from the engineer. So Kings is famous for doing things differently. How do you decide, yes, you'll do that one? No, that's harebrained. We're not going to do that one. And what things have you said no to? I think it's a quite fluid process. It's like one thing leads to another with the JRA. Like halfway down the development cycle of it, one engineer put the Jesko V8 in it.
It's very
it didn't fully fit, but I kind of walked past and said, hang on a second. How is that possible? That should not fit there.
Okay, so
it kind of doesn't, it kind of doesn't.
It's impossible to lead by following, therefore
you know what?
I am
What would that mean for the car? It's like,
apart from the engineer, so Koenigsegg is
and then we had developed the LST for the Jesko and started getting super fascinated of what a game changer the transmission was.
And what thing can he said no to?
If we wrap this around and do this, we can make this most exciting car on planet Earth and it happens to be a four-seater and we just cannot not do that even though it means it will prolong the project a bit.
The Jesko
But
V8
Christian didn't make this decision alone. First, he had to speak to everyone who bought a build slot for the JRA to make sure they'd be happy getting a 5LV8 instead of a 2L3 cylinder engine. And you know what? Almost all of them said yes. I wonder why. But even though the engine was almost fully developed at this point, Christian realized the entire layout had to be completely redesigned or else the whole V8 JRA project would be dead on arrival. Hey guys, hello. So here we can see this as a JRA hot V engine. So the difference between the Junior and the ESC is that to squeeze in the V8 into the JRA, we needed to make it narrower.
But Christian didn't make this decision alone. First, he had to speak to everyone who bought a build slot for the Gemera to make sure they'd be happy getting a 5-litre V8 instead of a 2-litre 3-cylinder engine. And you know what? Almost all of them said yes. I wonder why. But even though the engine was almost fully developed at this point, Christian realised the entire layout had to be completely redesigned or else the whole V8 Gemera project would be dead on arrival.
So this is hooked up to the dynamometer there, which is, this is an engine brake dynamometer. So we can brake up to 2,000 horsepower here. And
so
what are you running this one on at the moment? Is it?
To squeeze in the V8
let's ask,
into
I don't know.
we needed
what
to make
fuel
it
is
narrower.
inside now?
So we could not
currently
have the
run
exhaust on the side
95.
So we
just
flipped
this is
everything
standard.
around, made new
so this
heads
is if
and
you're
changed
filling
all
up
things
just
and put the
pump.
exhaust up
Just
top, and then
pump
a
fuel.
different
And are you about to run it up? We're about to start. Yeah, cool.
So the new
Timing
heads,
is perfect.
new intake,
They
new
want to
exhaust,
see a
new
graph.
dry sump,
Can we get
new
like a good old
turbos,
school
new
dyno?
intercoolers,
95
new
octane
controller,
graph.
but the actual
Yes, we can show something.
chamber
it is cold,
process is
so
very
we'd have to heat it up
similar in
first.
timing,
So let's see how it behaves. An actual real cold start. So that's the fan.
Yeah, this is
the
an
extraction
engine brake
fans.
dynamometer. So we can
it's
break
okay.
up to
But in the
2,000
production car,
horsepower.
it'll start much faster because you'll use the YAG. Because not only that, here you have a big weight in the dyno. On the Jesko and the JRA, there is no flywheel.
So this is if you're filling up.
So it boomed as this. Oh, yeah,
And
there's
you're
no
about to run it up.
flywheel. And all the kind of funny sounds is this
Timing
kind
is
of
perfect.
pipes
I
and
wanna see
exhaust
a
here rattling a
graph.
bit.
Can we get like a good old
So we're going to let it warm up.
95 octane
Yeah,
graph.
then we're going to come back and we're going to plot a dyno graph to see how much power is
So
producing
let's
our
see
normal
how it
95
behaves in an
fuel.
actual real
While we
cold
waited
start.
for that, I wanted to check out the workshop's next
That's the
floor,
fan,
which is
the
where new
extraction fan.
prototype
Yeah.
components are developed. And it's also where Christian's team is literally reinventing the wheel. So here we're coming into our carbon fiber department.
Yeah,
This is where you test, you build up new parts.
But in the
So what are
production
they
car,
doing
it'll
here?
start much faster
For
'cause you'll
instance,
use
a
the-
car
Yeah,
whole
because
carbon fiber wheel.
well, not
And
only
this is
that,
part of the
here you have a
development,
big
is it
weight
rather
in the
than production?
dyno. On the Jesko and the
let's
Gemera, there
ask.
is no flywheel.
For which
so
model
boom,
is this?
does this.
Which car?
Oh, yeah, there's no
yes.
flywheel?
Am I allowed
And
to
all
say
the kind
it's a
of
new
funny
one?
sounds
Okay.
is this kind of
Yeah.
pipes
No.
and exhaust here
Okay.
rattling
exactly.
a bit. So
it turns
So
out
we're
this
gonna let it
new wheel
warm up.
design was
Yeah.
for the
Then we're
Koenigsegg
going to come
Sedan
back and we're
Spirit.
going to plot
I got to
a
check out this
dyno
lighter,
graph to see
more
how much
powerful
power it's
version of the
producing
Jesko
on
attack for
normal
myself a
95
few months
fuel.
later at the official reveal.
While we waited for that,
But when I
I
was
wanted to
visiting
check
the
out the
factory, the
workshops
whole
next
project
door,
was
which is
completely top
where
secret.
new prototype components are
luckily,
developed.
it's not
And it's
easy
also
to
where
see what it
Christian's
looks
team
like.
is
It's a new
literally
wheel,
reinventing
but this
the
is
wheel.
interesting.
So
If we're allowed to show,
we're
we
coming
can
into
blur it out
our
if we need
carbon
to.
fiber department.
How you have
This is
your
where you
bucket you're
test, you
working
build
around
up
and
new
then you're
parts.
laying
So
the
what
carbon
they
fiber
do here,
layers
for
onto
instance,
produce
A
the
hollow
wheel.
carbon fiber wheel.
Then you'll take
And this
this
is
metal
part of the
bit out,
development, is it,
obviously.
rather than production?
Yes. How
yeah,
long
let's
does
ask,
it take to make
for
one of
which model is
these?
this?
Probably 3 or 4 days.
Yes.
3 or so. You're working on this for 3 or 4.
It's a new one.
And you're basically using the carbon fiber sheets, which are pre-cut and marked here.
Exactly.
You can see.
It turns out this new wheel design was for the Koenigsegg Sedan Spear. I got to check out this lighter, more powerful version of the Jesko Attack for myself a few months later at the official reveal. But when I was visiting the factory, the whole project was completely top secret.
So luckily it's not easy to see. It's a new wheel.
Correct. And then the pieces already put on there. Of course. So how many pieces in total make up a wheel? 650 individual carbon fiber pieces going into one wheel over around 3 days from one operator.
Yes.
So then you can count how many people we need to be to build our wheels. Yes, and you can see that this one piece is part of the spoke. So there's a few pieces for the spokes there. Look at that. And you can see the design of it there. And this is for a secret car that's not yet been revealed.
And how often do you have to go back and
we call it air core. So you can see this as a cutout of a river wheel. It's not the same design, but that's basically how same principle exactly. So you see it's hollow inside here.
All these
here you
pieces
actually
here
have the wheel
for
nut.
that individual wheel.
So we clamped the wheel nut straight into the hollow carbon fiber, which was deemed to sort of be impossible before we did it. And in terms of life longevity of these wheels compared to like a magnesium wheel, you hit a pothole or something like how do they cope with that?
Then you can count
metals kind of fatigue from every kind of
input,
whether you're getting close to the stress limit or not, while composite doesn't.
One piece
so that's one thing. Secondly, through pre-esting and real-life testing, what we have noticed is that when you hit a pothole severe enough to dent your aluminium wheel to the point where all the air leaks out, nothing happens to this. So therefore, inherently safer. But high strength and rigid tool aren't the only reasons why Christian developed these wheels.
Same
The biggest advantage they have over conventional alloy wheels is weight. We're talking about 4 kilos lighter per wheel, 16 kilos lighter car, but then it's unsprung. So that means that when you hit the bump, you go back to the contact the ground quicker.
And in terms of like longevity,
so you can also have softer suspension as a result. But then you have the gyroscopics effect as well for steering. I mean, these are Euro spinning to counteract steering feel. So less mass means better steering feel. On top of that, when you're accelerating, you have to spin up all this mass. It's a flywheel. And then when you push the brakes, you need to break down to the energy in the flywheel. So you get apart from the car being lighter, you get faster acceleration and shorter braking distance and better steering feel and more contact to the ground due to the less mass. So when people are like buying a sports car, they might think I don't need magnesium. I don't need
the biggest advantage they have over conventional alloy wheels.
I don't actually. The benefit will really benefit how the car feels to drive just in situations. I mean, it should be set up for it.
But then it's
of course, the positive impact of performance and sensor input is massive.
To contact the ground
if you care about that,
so you can also
it's a
have
high
softer
value.
suspension as a result.
All these carbon fiber components have to be cured in massive heated chambers called autoclaves.
These are gyro spinning.
These heat up the parts under high pressure, which makes them stronger, lighter, and gives them a better surface finish than a normal industrial oven. But this is where my tour of Christian's high-tech factory took a slightly unexpected turn.
And then when you push the brakes, you need to break down the energy in the flywheel.
Autoclaves are in the car industry seen as like the holy grail of manufacturing and the pinnacle in aerospace and so on. This is a refretting tractor tire autoclave from the 60s that we rebuilt in.
So when people are like buying a sports car,
you found it in a scrapper. Wow, to buy a new autoclave this size, we have 3 of them in Spain. They're around like 400,000 euros. I think with the rebuild and the scrap everything, this was around 150,000 euros when we had no money back in the day and it just worked fine.
About that,
but if you look here, let's
all
see,
these carbon fiber components have to be cured in massive heated chambers called autoclaves. These heat up the parts under high pressure, which makes them stronger, lighter, and gives them a better surface finish than a normal industrial oven.
In reality,
but
it's also very similar to something very rudimentary. I've already seen how Christian likes to engineer and build his own parts, often regardless of cost. But there are exceptions to this rule because an old tractor tire autoclave isn't the only piece of equipment he's repurposed over the years. I can't show you the insides, but I can show you the outsides of this. So, this is our new US Viper system. So, US, yeah, with the CC850, we have a little bit lower glass than on previous car comparisons within there are regulations for the sweeping area of the windshield wiper. And we actually, for many years, there was one standard component we kept on using because it was so good, and that was the Mercedes-style kind of old-school style reaching out windshield wiper. And a lot of people recognize, oh, that's from, yeah, it is.
You look here,
it's a fantastic one. High-speed Autobahn approved. It works really well. But eventually that didn't do the trick to reach out the full area that we needed for our modern cars. So here we have developed a completely new one in-house with some very special gearing in here that I can't show because we're doing some patents on that, which makes this become shorter and longer than any other Viper in the world.
But there are exceptions to this rule, because an old tractor tire autoclave isn't the only piece of equipment he's repurposed over the years.
You see, that's crazy.
I can't show you the
insides,
but I can show you the
think about,
outsides.
but it's a pretty big undertaking to make it happen. To have this biggest ratio from short to long and make it swipe and be lightweight.
Viper system.
But then we got word that the JRA development engine was finally ready for its final run. We're hot
we
now.
have a little bit lower
Can we have the door a little bit open even though we shouldn't?
Previous car comparisons with.
Yeah, we can.
And there are regulations for
it's just more fun with a little bit of noise. And this engine is not, let's say, put there to show maximum power at the moment. It's tuning kind of emissions and drivability parameters and so on. But you will see what it will do today, and which will not be its highest number possible.
And
but interesting to keep in mind 95 octane fuel, right? Even on this fuel we can go higher like we do on the Esco. Okay, are you ready? Let's do a pull then. 22,000. See the drum dry sump tank there on the side. So, we have the windows to see what's going on. That's the same tank as in the car in the jam room. There we go. So, that was a pull. I think it was over 100 horsepower. You can check. Yeah, this was about 50 horsepower. And that's on 95. So when you're running it fully, what do you anticipate it will do on 95?
Right,
so I mean the Yesco we are up at 1270. So this has slightly smaller turbos. So which means the boost be a little bit earlier. So I would say over 1200 at least. That's the target. Yes, the orange one is our torque curve. So you're getting to peak torque about there. 2 and 12 RPM we hit, 100
development engine was finally
ready
for its dyno run.
This. So then the green one is a power curve. Okay,
can we have the door a little bit open even though we shouldn't?
50 horsepower at 7.5. So we have a little bit more headroom, which we are still under development.
A little bit of noise.
Right. So you're going to get this is a power curve, the green going a bit more like that.
To show maximum
correct.
Power at the moment.
You're still developing the engine now before they go to the customer.
Parameters and so on. But you will see what it will do today.
We keep on doing this even to Yesco engines and other engines to run them over time to put even more mileage on them for service to see what happens.
Right.
So this is kind of endless work. And this development doesn't just apply to Koi's V8 engines. Christian applies the same rigor to testing the electrical components in the brand new JRA. However, these require a completely different type of dyno.
Yes.
This is a JRA 4-wheel drive drivetrain in our chassis dyno. So we can test and develop the whole drivetrain without having the car in the way.
Here we go.
You can go in and have a little look. It's pretty. Can you test light once the cars all put together and beforehand the customer cars and their power output and their performance on these systems? Yes, we need one each our customer engine will have a production dyno. Then we test each car on the airfield up to 300 kilometers per hour with full braking. Like our competitors, they do the same, but we jokingly say we only deliver used cars.
Horsepower.
Yes, so that's a question for you. When you buy a new car, there's this running period, which is its one good thing about EVs.
So when you're running it fully, what do you anticipate it will do on 95?
You can just enjoy it.
So I mean,
if you've done like 300 kilometers an hour and you've tested it on the dyno, do you need to run the car or is it running? If you really want it, you can just go for it, but recommend easing into it a bit for many reasons.
So I would say over 1200
I would imagine that quite a lot of your customers are quite impatient. Right.
So you're getting to peak torque about there.
Exactly. So here you can actually see our e-motor, the black.
And which is your power curve, this?
Yeah, and that's our 6. It's a 6-phase motor, and it has a axial flux technology that we have patented, which is a combination of axial and radial. Essentially, this motor has a core that's driven by magnetic fields arranged in 2 different orientations instead of just one like a conventional motor.
You're still developing the engine now before they go to the customer.
This is complex to design and difficult to build, but it has one big advantage. The end result is that when we compare this motor to what we know is out there, we have the highest torque to power density for weight and size. So it allows you to have a lot of power in a small,
this development doesn't just apply to Koenigsegg V8 engines. Christian applies the same rigor to testing the electrical components in the brand new Gemera. However, these require
of torque in that little disc, in that little black disc there.
So this is a
and what's the weight of that? That's 39 kilos. So, this tiny motor produces more power and over 500 Nm more torque than you get in a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ's naturally aspirated V12, but it weighs 85% less than that big 6.5L engine. And Christian has big plans to make these motors even better. But before we get into that, there's something else groundbreaking about the JRA's drivetrain that's on show here. Rather than active differentials, it uses separate hydraulic clutches to split the power between all 4 wheels. And this allows it to do something very special. So this is the first time in the world on any drivetrain where you can run a 4-wheel drive car with 4-wheel torque vectoring in EV mode from one e-motor. And you can do the same, right? You can run 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel torque vectoring without using the e-motor from only the combustion engine with 9 gears. Or you can use them together doing all of that. It's a reduction of parts compared to anything else we've seen. So it's sort of giving you the benefit of having individual hub-mounted motors.
I would imagine that quite a lot of your customers
but with one motor. With one motor or the combustion engine if you don't want to.
I'm sure you
don't like waiting.
Don't do that.
So here you can actually see our e-motor, the black thing there.
Because we
and that's our it's a six-phase motor, and it has a axial flux technology that we have patented, which is a combination of axial and radial.
Essentially, this motor has a core that's driven by magnetic fields arranged in two different orientations instead of just one, like a conventional motor. This is complex to design and difficult to build, but it has one big advantage.
The end result is that when we compare this motor to what we know is out there, we have the highest torque/power density for weight and size.
It's kind of a thing of beauty as well. A lot of power in the
smaller, lighter package.
Because that is small.
Yes.
How much horsepower?
That's 800 horsepower and 1250 newton meters of torque.
We can use our car knowledge to do things no one seems to do, where you can shrink and make more compact and more powerful.
So this tiny motor produces more power and over 500 newton meters more torque than you get in a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ's naturally aspirated V12. But it weighs 85% less than that big 6.5 litre engine. And Christian has big plans to make these motors even better. But before we get into that, there's something else groundbreaking about the Gemera's drivetrain that's on show here. Rather than active differentials, it uses separate hydraulic clutches to split the power between all four wheels. And this allows it to do something very special.
So this is the first time in the world on any drivetrain where you can run a four-wheel drive car with four-wheel torque vectoring in EV mode from one e-motor. And you can do the same.
Right,
you can run four-wheel drive, four-wheel torque vectoring without using the e-motor from only the combustion engine with 9 gears, or you can use them together doing all of that. It's a reduction of parts compared to anything else we've seen.
So it's sort of giving you the benefit of having individual hub-mounted motors.
Exactly, but with one
motor, or the combustion engine if you don't want the motor. You don't have an accountant going, don't do that, do you?
No.
I can tell.
But he would be happy because we saved 3 e-motors.
That's true.
That's kind of where we're with it. But this is just the first generation of what Christian calls the dog matter motor. The next generation is already being developed behind this
JRA costs around $2.7 million or over £2 million.
Electric shock.
But there's another reason that I only started to grasp when Christian showed me the facility that actually builds Koenigsegg incredible motors.
That's fine.
So, this is our e-motor production line.
Okay, yes,
this facility doesn't run non-stop because if we did 2 shifts here, we can do 5,000 motors per year and we don't have that need at the moment. But we have a lot of interest from outside parties when they're looking for maximum power and torque density to size and don't care about price, then they can come to us.
So I find this equally
also,
interesting.
this kind of comes back to like the price of the cars.
So much still
part
to do
of what
in
you're
this
paying
field.
is this to be
when you get
standing
into
still
it,
as
you
well.
see, hang on a second, we can use our
yeah,
carbon fiber knowledge to do things no one seems to do, where you can shrink and make more compact and more powerful.
At times you're paying for a machine in a normal production facility that is working all the time.
It's all machined out of a billet.
Of course. Yeah, that's true. And this is a let's see if I can open this up. Again, no up pacemaker here. This is a rotor magnetizing. Yeah, I don't know how to open this actually. I shouldn't touch it.
But is it also
it's
a little
hollow
bit
car.
So
this is the rotor.
Yes.
We used our real technology to make
However,
this
this can-do attitude comes with its own problems.
It's the magnets.
It's clear that Koenigsegg is capable of making a fully electric car.
Yes. Hence the name rotor.
Bugatti delayed this decision under the leadership of Matteo Rimac, and Horatio Pagani told me there simply isn't a demand for an electric Pagani either. So I had to put this question to Christian.
Koenigsegg is still making new parts for some of its oldest cars as part of the Legends division, which is also where Christian keeps some of his most important models in the brand's history. That's in a garage drivetrain. Here you actually have the engine part of the chassis. So this is bolted to the monocoque, and that's the actual dry subframe of the engine. So this was someone's car. This is kind of a spare part, the rear end, right? Basically, might it be needed? Who knows? But you built it. Yeah, exactly. So how do you end up building this extra one? Was it a plan or is it no? It kind of came about out of having parts, having time, making use of it, making a spare part kit kind of thing, something like that. But it may never get used. Could be. This is the first ever regular. It is actually light blue. You might have seen it was on the Geneva Motor Show in 2014.
I was beginning to understand why the Gemera costs around $2.7 million
because it is a film car and you don't want it to reflect too much in what we're photographing.
That I only started to grasp when Christian showed me the facility that actually builds
Koenigsegg's
need to film a
Koenigsegg.
So this is our e-motor production line.
Yeah,
this facility doesn't run non-stop because if we did 2 shifts here, we could do 5,000
Here's an example of some of our tracking cars.
We don't have that need at the moment, but we have a lot of interest from outside parties when they're looking for maximum
built this in 2014,
power and torque
so it's 10 years old now.
And don't
2
care
years
about
ago,
price,
it set a new world record 8 years after its creation
also,
with a record of this one since it's the same model.
The price of the car.
Well, Christian, thank you very much for showing us
to
around.
be standing still.
I mean,
as
really
well.
impressive,
you are,
really
in a
enlightening,
way.
and giving us this exclusive access.
This unit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely fascinating.
Low, so
and to hear the story of how back in 1994, this dream and here we are now.
All the time,
unbelievable for me even, I guess, when I think about it and looking forward to seeing like these the future cars and what happens next.
No pacemaker here. This is
rotor magnetizing.
Yeah, I don't know how to open this actually. I shouldn't touch it. It's a hollow carbon
So this
fiber
is the rotor.
We used our wheel technology to make this hollow.
Okay, yeah.
So it's
and where's
light.
the magnets?
These are the magnets.
These are the magnets, and this bit spins.
Yes.
Hence the name rotor.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is after this is manufactured, it's magnetized here.
Okay. Cutting-edge dark matter motors aren't the only things built in this new facility. Koenigsegg is still making new parts for some of its oldest cars as part of the Legends division, which is also where Christian keeps some of his most important models in the brand's history.
That's a Gira drivetrain. Here you actually have the engine part of the chassis. So this is bolted to the monocoque, and that's the actual dry sump frame of the engine.
So this was someone's car?
This is kind of a spare part rear end,
right?
Basically.
Might it be needed?
Who knows?
But you built it.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you end up building this extra one? Was it a plan, or was it?
No, it kind of came about out of having parts, having time, making use of it, making a spare part kit kind of thing, something like that.
But it may never get used.
Could be. This is the first ever Regera. It is actually light blue. You might have seen it was on the Geneva Motor Show in 2014. It just got wrapped matte black for this year's Koenigsegg Tour because it is a film car and we don't want it to reflect too much in what we're photographing.
So you use this as like what we call the tracking car?
Yes.
Obviously you need to film a Koenigsegg, you need a Koenigsegg.
To keep up.
Yeah, and so you have it all in matte black so it doesn't reflect so much. This is quite a good tracking car. Here's an example of some of our tracking cars.
It's quite nice interior for a tracking car.
Yeah, it's all right, isn't it?
We built this in 2014, so it's 10 years old now. 2 years ago, it set a new world record, 8 years after its creation with the record of this one, since it's the same model.
Well, Christian, thank you very much for showing us around. I mean,
My
really
pleasure.
impressive, really enlightening and giving us this exclusive access. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating, and to hear the story of how back in 1994, this dream, and here we are now.
Unbelievable for me even, I guess, when I think about it.
And looking forward to seeing like the future cars and what happens next.
We're very excited for that as well.